In this video, I'm going to teach you how to never get ghosted ever again, because you're going to set such extreme next steps and clear expectations that your clients are going to know that you are the professional to work with. So I like to call this a client call mastery framework, and I'm going to jump right into it because Fortune 500 companies spend billions of dollars understanding consumer decisions. And I'm not saying that we are able to spend billions or even hundreds of dollars understanding consumer decisions and what influences them to make the proper decision. But we should absolutely be able to monitor what we're doing to set client expectations so that we can be the professionals and make sure that our clients never ghost us again. So clients absolutely crave leadership, not order taking. I think during the pandemic for the past few years, realtors were able to get away with taking orders because the real estate market was just that exactly. You could put a property on the MLS, take some photos, it would sell, no big deal. You could take some orders, your client could kind of dictate the price and so forth. All that's changed. You now have to be the leader that they need, right? This is not customer service. This is sales, okay? You're in a sales position. So what does that mean for you? Okay, I want to get into the paradox of choice. Now, this is a really cool study done by Columbia University, okay, and explaining the paradox of choice and what that means. Basically, that too many choices can actually really be a huge disadvantage to you, okay? Because let me put the framework here. As realtors, we tend to think that by giving lots of options, we're actually doing our client a service by being like, look at everything that I have for you. Look at all these great options. It's the complete opposite. So Columbia University did this study, and there's a lot more to it that goes into this, but this is high level. It was a study on jams, like jam and peanut butter, okay? Hang in there. Study number 1, there was 24 options on the table, okay? Study number 2, there was 6 options on the table. Okay, what Columbia University did was they measured the percentage of people who bought when there were 24 options versus 6 options, right? Now, when there were 24 options on the table, only 3% of people bought the jam, okay? Now, when there were 6 options on the table, that increased to 30%. Think about that. Too many choices equals overwhelm, okay, which leads to indecision, and then more importantly, regret. Let me explain that. If somebody has 300 options to choose from, it's way too many to actually make an educated decision on because it's just way too many things to analyze. They're going to pick one, not really being overly confident on that one, which is then going to let them think, did I make the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Oh my God, well, look at all these other ones. I can't. And then they're going to maybe regret their decision. And when they regret their decision, that comes back on one person, and that one person is you, the real estate professional that gave so many options because you were trying to be helpful and actually harming your transaction and making a bad decision. Your job is to narrow it down, curate and lead, and you do that because this is a sales process. This is sales, not customer service. Next part, I want to get into a mindset reframe. Every single call I go into, and the reason I say this is because I think a lot of realtors idolize or have this vanity that dials is a metric that's the utmost importance. And I do think that number of dials is extremely important. I'm a firm believer in that, but I'm also measuring the outcome of those dials, okay? So if I go into these calls, and I'll give you an example. A lot of people use dialers. It's a big thing in the US. A lot of people use dialers. They put their thing on and they dial for, 30 to 50 lines before one answers, and you're scrolling Instagram, and then somebody answers and you're caught off guard. Oh, hi, is it, and you're trying to find out who you're even talking to, right? Your mindset's not there. There's a time and a place for an auto dialer. Most of the time, I go in with high intent, okay? I go into these calls assuming the sale the moment the call starts, okay? That sale's already complete up here. I know that I'm gonna get this sale, and I go into every single call with that mindset, right? You're the expert. That doesn't mean you're all knowing. This is more for a lot of new realtors. A lot of new realtors get very nervous because they're scared to do calls, and that's what ends up giving you paralysis. You don't want to do the calls. You're scared that someone's going to know more than you. You're scared that someone's going to ask you a question you don't know the answer to. The thing is, that's okay. You're the expert, but that doesn't mean you're all knowing. It's okay to not know certain things. It's how you handle that question. If somebody asks you, hey, can you tell me about XYZ, and you don't know the answer, it's very okay and professional to say, I don't have that answer in front of me right now, but what I will do is I'll get back to you with an answer by the end of the day. Okay? Relaying that professionalism, showing them that, okay, it's okay that you don't know everything, but I'm going to get that answer. Don't worry. I'll get that answer. I'll make sure I have all questions answered for you. Okay? Now, clients ghost you when they're overwhelmed, which equals a lack of trust. It's not that they're uninterested. Okay? They're ghosting you because they're super overwhelmed. You gave them 400 options to choose from, or they lack trust. So that's why that doesn't often happen to me, because every single call that I go into, okay, I have extreme standard operating procedures, and I'm extremely dialed in, and I make sure that I go in with a goal and I accomplish that goal, which we're going to get into in a second here. Now, here is the 5-step call flow overview, okay? Number 1, mindset and assume the sale. Number 2, game plan. Number 3, set the tone. Number 4, control the call. Number 5, set expectations and exit, okay? Now, I'm going to go through this one by one for you so it's not too overwhelming. Okay, number 1, mindset and assume the sale. Ditch the long bio, spotlight them, not you. I'll give you an example of how I overcame this. When I first started selling real estate in Tulum, Mexico, I was extremely overwhelmed because it was a massive learning curve. I wasn't overly confident in what I was doing, to be honest, because I just moved from Canada selling real estate in Tulum, Mexico, in a country where I didn't speak the language. I didn't really know the processes. And my first few sales, I was a bit nervous and maybe lacked the confidence. Because I lacked the confidence, I thought, and my reaction was, well, if I display my knowledge to these people by talking about how much I know on the call, they're going to assume that I'm the expert. It wasn't until I rewatched my calls, my Zoom calls, that I could see that when I was talking to the people, talking about how great I was, how much I knew about Tulum, all the rules and all the things, I looked back and I saw their eyes rolling in the back of their head because they don't care. Okay? A professional sales call should actually be you talking 20%, the client talking 80%, because you're controlling the conversation by asking the questions and guiding them where you want them to go. So shut up and listen, okay? And actively listen. When you're new at this, it's challenging because you have to actively listen, and it's tough because you're thinking about the next thing that's coming, okay? Now, I understand that that's a challenge. I don't use scripts, and I'm going to get into in a second. I use bullet points, because if I use a script, it throws me off. So use your bullet points so that when you're actually listening to the question that they ask, or you ask them, you're not just thinking about the next thing you should be saying. That was a huge pain point for me when I was new. I was just so busy thinking about the next thing to say that I didn't listen to the thing that they said. And then at the end, I was like, I don't even know what that's all about, right? So do your best to actively listen. And your opening energy, confidence, calm, you're the leader, okay? Very important. You want to, the map for the ideal transaction, look, this depends on you and your business, okay? Now, you can have one to 5 calls, maybe 1 to 7 calls between the time of client discovery to closing a deal. It depends on how you run your business and how you operate yours. You can figure that out as you go. But for every single call that you have mapped out, you need to have a primary, secondary, and a tertiary goal. Okay? What's the purpose of these calls? It should never be a just call into chat type of call. Every single call, okay? Every single call has a purpose. Now, one of my favorite things, my good friend Michelle is the one that kind of helped me set this up for my own business. She can bang these calls out in between 7 to 12 minutes, right? And that was a huge pain point for me because I love to chat, obviously. You can do this quicker, and I work on this every day myself. So have a checkpoint of all the questions you want to answer on each individual call. Try to keep the call under 15 minutes. What I've done to help me succeed with this is I've now blocked off my time slots on my calendar for calls, for client onboarding calls, are 10 minutes. That way, if I do go over a little bit, I'm only going over by a few minutes. And if I set because before I would do 30-minute time blocks. So I'd see it in my calendar and I'd be like, well, I can chat for a little bit. So I changed it to 10 minutes to help me with that, okay? Number 3, set the tone. Grab control, okay? Now, your intro script can be different. Hey, blank, thanks for making time, okay? Now, what's going to happen on this call is I'm going to ask you a few questions to understand your situation so that I can answer any concerns you might have and lay out the next steps. How my calls typically go is, hey, is Stephanie there? Hi, Stephanie, nice to meet you. How was your weekend? Oh, weekend was amazing. Great. What did you get up to? That's so cool. Okay. Hey, look, just to be respectful of everybody's time, I'm going to jump right into this. So what's going to happen on this call is XYZ, right? So I lay out the expectations of that call, right? It's not just a conversation. It's to get to it. Okay. Now, step number 4, to stay on track, you got to control the call. Stay on track, use a checklist because you're going to get off topic, right? Have your questions you need to answer. Have your goal of the call and then the questions you need to answer. That's what's going to happen on this call. Control this call. Now, real rapport is a deep understanding, not just small talk about what they've done on the weekend, who their favorite sports team is, right? That's building a rapport. Building rapport is showing someone that you fully understand their goal. You're listening, you're active listening to what they're saying. That's how you build rapport. That's how you build trust with people. It's not by bonding over the fact that you both live in Toronto or you both live where and you both have the same car, blah, blah, blah. Rapport is building trust and a deep understanding, okay? Now, if the conversation drifts, which it likely might, and you start talking about certain things, you can always bring, kind of, oh, that's so great. I appreciate that you love this. I also love that, but let's just park that conversation for now. We'll get back to that later, but let's stay on track and get back to XYZ of goal, okay? Control the conversation where you want it to go. Parking topics, right? This is what we're talking about if the conversation kind of gets all over the place. Great point. Let's park that for a moment and circle back after we cover XYZ, right? Or you can mention to people, even though I kind of do at the beginning, if it kind of gets a little bit off topic and they start talking about all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, you can say something like, hey, I've got a hard stop at 11 o'clock. Let's just keep the momentum going on the topic of getting you your new Airbnb property or whatever the topic might be, okay? Now, setting expectations and exit, step number 5. Define the inputs of what you want to get out of this call, okay? Define your outputs, give a time frame, and confirm alignment, okay? So I'm going to give you an example of this, okay? At the end of the call, okay, you can always ask somebody, hey, do you have any other questions when you're wrapping up the call? That's kind of like a leading indicator that this call is coming to an end. Okay, awesome, that's great. Hey, do you have any other questions? They might have a couple questions, answer them. Now, this is super important. At the end of this call, you're going to give 2 exit lines. Do you feel that I have a clear understanding of your goals with this purchase or with this sale? Do you feel I have a clear understanding of your goals with your purchase or with your sale? Okay? Let them answer that question. This isn't a rhetorical question. Let them answer the question. Do you feel I have a firm understanding of your goals with XYZ? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Okay, well, how do I get a firm understanding? Tell me, okay? Then, are we on the same page with the next steps? And are you sure you understand how to complete the next steps that I've given you? Okay, because I'll give you an example. As a buyer, it's very likely that the next steps are going to be sending my client to a mortgage broker, getting them pre-approved, right? So I'm going to actually specifically lay out those next points for them so that they fully understand what the next steps are going to be, okay? Now, handling no-shows and overcallers. When someone misses an appointment, funny enough, I just had this happen 5 minutes ago. Okay, I don't think you need to be rude. I think you need to be polite, but you need to set boundaries. Okay. Now, for me, if someone misses 2 calls, it's very unlikely I'll schedule a third. If they do ask, I'll probably triple confirm that email, but it's very unlikely. 2 calls is kind of my thing. Chronic callers. This is what happens to a lot of realtors, I think, and it's very common. It's challenging to overcome completely, okay? But for the most part, if you have your own standard operating procedures for your business, I'll give you mine. For my business, I have 3 calls during the onboarding to before we put an offer in, okay? Now, it's unlikely that my client's going to be calling me sporadically, because I never leave a phone call without hitting the goal of that phone call and leaving clear next steps. My clients aren't ghosting me, and my clients aren't calling me crazily off the hook because there's never any sort of uncertainty going on. There's always an extreme clarity. There's always a booked next meeting, and there's never any sort of like overwhelming anxiety because I've controlled that by leaving clear next steps, okay? Of course that's going to happen, but if that does continue to happen, you get someone calling you over and over again, you just need to jump on a call and kind of reestablish boundaries and really find the root of why they're calling so many times. It's very likely there's something bigger going on that you need to kind of unravel and get to the bottom of, okay? So to wrap this up, okay, on your standard operating procedures on how to take on a client onboarding call, you lead, don't follow, limit choices, it boosts clarity, okay? Scripts and guides, and adapt to your tone. For me, I'm not a script person. I'm much more of a bullet point guide person, okay? Practice and review your calls equals mastery, because you can't fix what you don't know is broken, right? You might think you're a rock star at cold calls, But until you're actually tracking everything and rewatching everything and seeing where you could get better or where you're going wrong, it's impossible to continue to improve. So for you and your business, I highly suggest thinking of the absolute roadmap from client onboard to client closing. Think of that roadmap, establish standard operating procedures for every single type of lead source, whether it's a buyer, seller, buyer and seller, investor, whatever type of clients you're working for. Have your standard operating procedures, have your standard call practices on the goals you want to accomplish for each individual call, and run your business like a real business. Stop just running around guessing everything and making it all one big guesswork. There's a way to actually be a real entrepreneur, and that's by actually running your business like a real business, and you start by doing things like this. I appreciate you watching and following this channel. If you haven't followed the channel, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to continue to put out content like this. I hope you're enjoying it. Leave a comment if I forgot something, or if you have a question, please put it in the comments, and I'll make sure I answer you right away.